All right, let's get right into it. For the last few years, a truly devastating civil war has been raging in Myanmar. And, it's been largely out of the global spotlight. But this is so much more than just an internal conflict. It has quietly become a battleground for global powers, a proxy war with absolutely massive strategic stakes. Today, we're going to go inside that conflict. So, how did it all start? In the most surreal way you can imagine. Back in early 2021, a fitness instructor in Myanmar's capital was filming her aerobics routine. Pretty normal, right? But she was completely oblivious to the military convoy that was literally rolling up behind her. That convoy was on its way to overthrow the government. And you won't believe this, but her workout video became the only known footage of the coup. It's wild. It captured this bizarre, almost mundane beginning of a conflict that has been anything but. That one moment kicked off more than 3 years of relentless, brutal violence. And the human cost has just been staggering. We're talking an estimated 82,000 lives lost in the fighting since the coup. And on top of that, it's created this massive humanitarian crisis, forcing about 3.2 million people from their homes. Now, you'd think a military coup would consolidate power, right? Well, in Myanmar, it did the exact opposite. It shattered it. The country is basically in a state of collapse. The central military government, the junta, controls only about a fifth of the nation's territory. And that power vacuum has turned Myanmar into a hub for narcotics, human trafficking, and weapons smuggling. So if the government only controls a tiny slice, who's running the rest? Well, Myanmar has become this complicated patchwork of separatist strongholds. The government, which is led by General Min Aung Hlaing, is really just one player in a very crowded and very violent field. So let's try and break down the major factions. Up north, you've got the Kachin Independence Army, and they're seeking autonomy. Out west, the Arakan Army is pushing for its own nation entirely. Then you have various Chin militias fighting both the government and sometimes each other. And over in the east, the long-standing Karen and Karenni armed groups are continuing their generations-long fight for their own ethnic homelands. It is incredibly fragmented. And then, into this mix, you have the People's Defense Force, or the PDF. Now, this group was formed by the exiled civilian government. Their big goal? To overthrow the military and create a federal democracy. But here's the twist. Their vision of a single unified country often clashes with the ethnic militias. A lot of those groups are deeply distrustful of any form of central rule and have their own separatist goals. All this internal chaos has created, well, a perfect storm. It's drawn in major global powers. They've arrived on the scene, and they're operating from the shadows, arming their proxies, funding different factions, and working to shape the outcome to serve their own interests. Initially, the big players had totally different game plans. China, for instance, adopted this strategy of playing all sides. They were hedging their bets, talking to pretty much everyone. The United States, on the other hand, offered more limited, public support, mostly things like non-lethal aid for the opposition. Okay, let's do a quick rundown of the key international players. You've got China, playing this delicate balancing act to protect its massive investments. Then there's India, which is really focused on securing its border, partly because insurgent groups use Myanmar as a safe haven. Russia has been a key arms supplier to the junta. And the US? Well, for them, the main goal is countering China's growing influence in the region. But look, to really understand this conflict, you have to understand China's perspective. For Beijing, Myanmar isn't just another neighbor. It is a strategic grand prize. It is absolutely critical to its global ambitions. So why? What's the logic here? It all comes down to one crucial waterway, the Strait of Malacca. It's a major choke point for shipping. In a conflict, the U.S. Navy could potentially blockade it, and that would cut off China's trade and energy supplies. So what's China's solution? A 1,700-kilometer overland corridor right through Myanmar, giving them direct access to the Indian Ocean and completely bypassing that vulnerability. And they are putting serious money into making this happen. I'm talking about a $7.3 billion deep water port at Kyaukphyu and a $1.3 billion special economic zone. These projects are the anchors for that corridor, designed to secure China's access to the Indian Ocean for decades to come. So all of this sets the stage for the next phase of the conflict, a direct, great power standoff. What we're seeing is an escalating chess match between Washington and Beijing, and the price is the future of this strategic corridor. So how is the U.S. responding to all this? Well, first, by slapping sanctions on the military government. Second, they're building a massive new $248 million consulate complex in northern Thailand, which is widely seen as a hub for expanding regional intelligence. And then there are these unconfirmed but persistent reports that the U.S. plans to support insurgent groups operating right near China's corridor. When you strip everything else away, the core geopolitical conflict is actually pretty simple. China is working relentlessly to build and entrench its strategic land corridor. And at the exact same time, the United States is working just as hard to undermine it. But here's the ultimate paradox, the real kicker in China's strategy. By quietly arming both the central government and key rebel groups, Beijing has made itself indispensable. It's become the only outside power with enough influence on all sides to actually broker truces, like it did recently in Shan State. And this gives Beijing incredible leverage over the country's future. Which brings us to a final, pretty sobering question. The people of Myanmar are already caught in a brutal civil war. Now, on top of that, they're caught in the middle of a great power rivalry. As these global forces clash over their land, you have to ask, will the people of Myanmar, as one source put it, taste the whip twice? All right, let's get right into it. For the last few years, a truly